Hello, second grade. Welcome to Unit 3, Week 2. So let's go over your vocabulary for this week. Your first word is the word neighbor. A neighbor is somebody who lives near you. So they can live next door, they might live up the street. It's just someone that lives close by. So if you live in a house, it may be the person that lives in the next house to the right or the left, or maybe in front of you. If you live in an apartment, it may be somebody who lives in the next apartment. Your next word is the word dreamed. When you dreamed about something, you imagined it, or it may be something that you thought about and you remembered when you woke up in the morning, something that you dreamed about while you were asleep. Your next word is the word adventure. If someone likes adventure, they like doing things that are exciting or unusual. So when someone does something that's exciting or unusual, they're going on an adventure or they're having an adventure. Your next word, number 4, is the word delighted. Now, delighted means you're really happy about something. When you feel delighted, you're really pleased. You've got a big smile on your face. It's something that makes you very happy. The next word is the word enjoyed. So when you enjoy something, you like it. It's something you like doing. You can say, I enjoyed baking a cake with my best friend. We enjoyed our bike ride at the beach. So enjoyed means to do something that you like. The next word is the word grumbled. So when someone is grumbling, it's kind of this low, kind of rumbly sound. You can't necessarily hear what they're saying. If it's a person, you might not necessarily hear the words that they're saying. It might not make sense because they're kind of saying it in a low voice. Animals grumble as well, so they make kind of a low, rumbly sound. Your next word is the word moonlight. So moonlight is that glow or the light that comes off of the moon that we see at night and that helps light up things for us at night. So we can say the moonlight lit up the park. The moonlight was shining on trees. And your last word for this week is the word nighttime. So nighttime is the opposite of daytime. It's the time of the day that, or it's the time that we experience at night. It's usually dark. So we sleep at nighttime. You may hear owls at nighttime. All right, let's go on to our spelling words for this week. So our spelling words for this week are going to focus on the long I sound. Now, the long I sound can be made several ways. It can either have an I in it, like an I-E or an I consonant E. It can have a letter Y. So the letter Y can make a long E sound or a long I sound, depending on the word. Or you can make the long I sound with the letters I-G-H. So your words this week are light, sight, mind, cry, tie, high, wild, dry, try, lie, hay, stake, begin, those, and apart. So pay attention to all the different ways that we're making the long I sound with these words. You can see the different letter combinations in each one of your spelling words. Now for our ELA and our grammar notes for this week, we're going to be talking some more about open and closed syllables. So this is something that we've reviewed before. Now we know that every word has at least one syllable in it, and a syllable is a word part that has a vowel sound in it. So if every word has at least one syllable in it, so that means every word has at least one vowel sound in it. Now syllables can be opened or closed. If there's more than one syllable in the word, it can have both opened and closed, or it can have just one kind. There's no rule about it needing to have just the one kind if it's more than one syllable. If you have a word that has a double consonant in it, like the word mitten or button or scribble, those words have a double consonant. So it has two of the same letters that are not a vowel next to each other in the word. Whenever you have a double consonant, you're going to divide that word, or you're going to split the syllables in between those double consonants. So one of them will go in one syllable and the other one will go in the next syllable. Now, if the last letter in a syllable is a consonant letter, so remember, a consonant is anything that's not a vowel. If the last letter is a consonant letter, then that is a closed syllable. And those closed syllables usually have a short vowel sound in them. They don't make a long vowel sound. Now, the opposite, if you have a syllable that ends with a vowel, those usually have a long vowel sound, and we call those open syllables. So when you listen to it, it helps you figure out which kind it is if you're not sure. So remember, short vowel sounds are like ah, eh, I, but long vowel sounds say a, e, I. It says the name of that letter, the name of that vowel. So underneath here, I have a few examples for you. So we have the word kitty. Kitty has a double T, right? So it's a double consonant. We know we're going to divide right between those two letter T's. So kit, K-I-T, is going to be a closed syllable because it ends with the letter T. That's a consonant. But T-Y, the second syllable for T in kitty, is an open syllable because it ends with a vowel. It ends with a Y. Now we have the next word is the word spider. Spider, right? So you can hear it or you can clap it out. You can say spider to figure out your syllables. Now we know that first syllable, spy, has a long I sound in it. So that's already a clue for us that it's an open syllable. It ends with the letter I, and remember, if it ends with a vowel, that one's an open syllable. And then the second syllable, der, D-E-R, has a short vowel sound, der. So we know that one's a closed syllable because it's got a short vowel sound and it ends with an R, and R is one of our consonant letters. Now, if we have the word pony, right? Po, that's a long vowel sound, and me, that's a long vowel sound. So we know we're dividing it into P-O as the first syllable and N-Y as the second syllable. This word has two open syllables. They both end with vowel letters. They both make long vowel sounds. And your last example here is the word candy. So can says ah, it doesn't say a. So we know that's another clue that it's a closed syllable. And your biggest clue, of course, is that it ends with a consonant letter. And then D, that Y is a long vowel sound, and that's a vowel, so that's going to be an open syllable. The next section we're going to talk about is compound words. Now, compound words are when you take two separate words and you put them together to make a new word that sometimes has a different meaning. So if we have the word fireflies, right? Fireflies is made up of two separate words. The word fire is a word by itself, and flies is a word by itself. The same goes for backpack. It's made up of back and pack. When we put them together, we say backpack, and we think of the thing that we use to carry our books to school. An evergreen tree is a tree that stays green all year long, but it's made up of two separate words, the word ever and the word green. Same thing with the word homemade, anyone, classroom, and we have a lot of compound words in the English language. So these are just a few examples. One of the things I want you to remember, though, because last week we talked about contractions, is this is not the same as a contraction. Yes, we're taking two words and we're putting them together, but we're not shortening anything. We're not adding apostrophes anywhere. We're taking those words as they are, and we're putting them together to make one longer word, where usually when we have contractions, we already have two longer words and we're putting them together to make a shorter word. So that's something for you guys to keep in mind. Now we're also going to continue talking about verbs. So we're going to talk about present tense verbs today. So we know when we're talking about tenses, we're talking about when something happened. So if we're talking about something that is past tense, that means it happened in the past, it's already done. So for example, if you're talking about something that happened yesterday or last week, that's in the past. Present means it's happening right now. So it's something that you're doing right now. So you're reading, or you're watching a video, or you're writing down answers, or you're thinking about how to answer a question. That's something that's happening presently right now. And then we have future tense verbs, and future means something that hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen, or you're planning for it to happen later on. So now when we're talking about regular present tense verbs, those usually have an S or an ES at the end of them. And just to remind you guys, this goes back to units 1 and 2, when we add an S or an ES. So if we have a word that ends with an S, SH, CH, X, or Z, going to add an ES to the end of it. So kisses, the mom kisses the baby's owie. Washes, the the boy washes his dog. Catches, the girl catches the ball that her friend threw. Dad fixes the broken sink. The bee buzzes around the flower. So you can hear the is sound in it. So all of these verbs have an ES at the end of them because they end with one of these letters, S, SH, CH, X, or Z. Now, that's the ES rule. But for the S rule, when do we add just the S? We add an S to pretty much any word that doesn't end with those letters for the ES rule, or it's something that ends with a vowel plus the letter Y. If you have a vowel plus the letter Y, you're only adding an S. So if we say the boy plays with his neighbor, AY, that's a vowel and then the letter Y, so we only add an S. Now, there are times where you need to change that Y to an I. And the only time you're going to change that Y to an I is when it doesn't end with a vowel Y, it ends with a consonant Y. So remember, a consonant is any letter, not a vowel, anything that's not A, E, I, O, or U. If it ends with a consonant Y, then we're going to change that Y into an I, and then we're going to add ES to the end of it. So fly, F-L-Y, becomes flies. The plane flies over the city, or the plane will fly. F-L-Y becomes F-L-I-E-S. The baby cries, C-R-I-E-S, comes from the word cry, C-R-Y. So because it has a consonant before it, before that letter Y, we're going to change it to an I, and then we're going to add the ES, just like we have here. And the last bit of our ELA notes is also a bit of a review. We're talking about commas in a series. Now, a series is a set of 3 or more words that we're talking about in the same sentence. We use a comma to separate the words in a series. We also use the word and or before that last word. So if you have a group of words, right before you say the last word, you're either going to say and to show you're talking about this as a group, or you're going to use the word or to show that you're having to pick between those different things that you listed. So I can say the farm has goats, cows, sheep, and chickens, right? So I'm talking about all of these animals are all together. I'm not picking between them. So that series is a series of different animals. So I have a comma after the first 3, and then I have the word and then the fourth one. So however many words you have in your series, if you have 3 words in your series, you're going to have 2 commas plus the word and or. If you have 4 words in your series, you're going to have 3 commas plus the word and or. So you're always going to have 1 less comma than the number of words in your series. And right before that last word, you're going to have and, or you're going to have or. Now I'm going to show you another example sentence that shows how we use the word or in a series, and it shows you that we're having to pick between things. When you use the word or, you're having to make a choice. Do you want to go to the park, beach, or zoo today? So I know when I look at this sentence, I'm seeing that I have a choice. I get to pick which one that I want. I'm not talking about all of them. I'm not saying I'm going to the park, beach, and the zoo today. I'm saying that I need to select one out of the group that I want to go to. So here we have 3 words in our series. We have park, we have beach, and we have zoo. So if we have 3 words, we're going to have 2 commas plus the word and or. The next sentence, we need blue, red, black, and green markers. So here I can see that I need all of them. I need all of those different colors. So I use the word and. I have 4 words in my series, blue, red, black, green. So that means I have 3 commas plus the word and that I used here. My next sentence, do you want to run, jump, or skip at recess? 3 words in my series, 2 commas plus the word or to show that I'm picking between them. And then my last sentence, I will cut, glue, and color my work. So here I have 3 things that I'm doing. I will have cut, glue, and color. So those are my 3 words in my series. I have 1, 2 commas plus the word and. So that's going to take us through to the end of our language arts notes. These are all things that you're going to be seeing in your practice book as well as your grammar packet. Please make sure you do sign back in here, review the video, review all of the notes as you're working throughout the week, because these notes will give you the information for the pages you're going to be doing even later in the week. All right, next up, we're going to jump into your stories for the week. So I'm going to open our Wonders. I'm going to go to our resources. I'm going to open both books. So first, I've got my reading and writing workshop, and I've got my literature anthology. So same thing here. You can follow along in your textbook if you like. We're in Unit 3, Week 2. Our story today is Mr. Putter and Tabby See the Stars. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video for you and follow along in your book, please.
Genre, fiction. Essential question. What can we see in the sky? Read about what Mr. Putter and Tabby see in the nighttime sky. Mr. Putter and Tabby See the Stars by Cynthia Rylant. Illustrated by Arthur Howard. Chapter 1, Logs. Chapter 2, Grumble. Chapter 3, Stars. Chapter 1, Logs. Mr. Putter and his fine cat Tabby loved to sleep. They could sleep anywhere. They slept in chairs, in swings, in cars, in tubs, and sometimes in the laundry room. Mr. Putter and Tabby also slept in a bed. Of course, most of the time, sleeping in a bed was just fine. Mr. Putter plumped his pillow. Tabby squished hers, and then they slept like logs. But one night, one of the logs could not sleep. Chapter 2, Grumble. Mr. Putter was the log who could not sleep. He could not sleep because he had eaten too many pineapple jelly rolls at Mrs. Teaberry's house. Mrs. Teaberry was Mr. Putter's good friend and neighbor, and she liked to feed him. She liked to feed everybody, but most of all, she liked to feed Mr. Putter. She was always sending her good dog Zeke over to Mr. Putter's house with a note. The note always said, "Are you hungry?" And Mr. Putter always said, "Yes." So he and Tabby went next door a lot. But tonight Mr. Putter had been having such a good time that he lost track and ate 21 jelly rolls. He forgot to count them as he popped them one at a time into his mouth. Before he knew it, 21 jelly rolls were gone, and it was time to go home. Mrs. Teaberry was happy that Mr. Putter enjoyed her jelly rolls so much. But Mr. Putter's stomach was not. It grumbled and grumbled and grumbled. Mr. Putter looked at his nice, soft bed when he got home. Grumble, grumbled his stomach. Mr. Putter knew he would not be able to sleep with all that grumbling. What to do? Mr. Putter looked at Tabby. Then he got an idea. Chapter 3, Stars. "Let's go for a walk," Mr. Putter said. He put his coat back on. He put his hat back on. He picked up Tabby, and out the door they went. It was a beautiful night. The moon was full and moonlight was everywhere. Tabby looked. She listened. She twitched her ears. She twitched her tail. She loved the night. Mr. Putter loved it too, even with a grumbling stomach. Stop and check. Reread. Why is Mr. Putter's stomach grumbling? Reread to check your understanding. Mr. Putter looked up at the sky. He showed Tabby the stars, and he told her all about them. He told her that the Big Dipper was full of milk from the Milky Way. Tabby purred. She loved milk. He told her about looking at stars when he was a boy, and how he had always wanted to ride in a rocket ship. He told her how he had always dreamed of adventure. Tabby purred some more. Mr. Putter and Tabby made a nice big circle around the neighborhood. They looked at the sky. They looked at the yellow lights of the houses. They looked at cats sitting in windows, looking back at them. And when at last they circled back home, they stopped in front of Mrs. Teaberry's house. Mrs. Teaberry and Zeke were on the front lawn. "Mrs. Teaberry, what are you doing up?" asked Mr. Putter. Stop and check. Reread. Mr. Putter asks why Mrs. Teaberry is up. Why is Mr. Putter up too? Reread to check your understanding. "Zeke has a grumbling stomach," said Mrs. Teaberry. "He ate too many jelly rolls and we can't sleep." Mr. Putter and Tabby were delighted. They sat on the lawn with Mrs. Teaberry and Zeke. Mr. Putter's stomach and Zeke's stomach talked to each other, while Mr. Putter and Mrs. Teaberry talked to each other. They told stories in the moonlight. They told secrets. They made each other laugh. Then when the stomachs on the front lawn stopped grumbling, everyone said good night, went to bed, and slept like logs. In the morning, Mr. Putter heard a scratching at the door. He opened it. It was Zeke with a note. The note said, "Are you hungry?" Mr. Putter smiled. He picked up Tabby, and together they walked next door.
All right, that takes us to the end of our first story. And we're going to take a look at our next short story, which is an expository text, and it's called Day to Night.
Genre: expository text. Compare texts. Read about the daytime and nighttime skies. Day to night. Your alarm clock rings. Beep, beep, beep. You turn it off, stretch, and get out of bed. You look out the window and see the daytime sky. The daytime sky. The sky is light today. It is blue with white clouds and the bright sun. The sun is the brightest object in the sky. It looks small, but that is because it is far from Earth. Sometimes the daytime sky has clouds. The sun. The sun is actually a star. Like all stars, it is a huge ball of hot gases. The sun is much larger than the Earth. It is the Earth's closest star, but there are many stars in the sky. In fact, there are too many stars in the sky to count. We cannot see them during the day because the sun's light makes our sky too bright. Hello, sun. Goodbye, sun. If you watched the sun all day, it would look like it moves across the sky. But the sun does not move. Even though you cannot feel it, Earth is turning. It makes one full turn in 24 hours, or one day. For about half of those hours, the place where you live faces the sun. It is daytime. The rest of the time, your home is not facing the sun. Then it is dark. When the sun is shining on your home, it is daytime. Then the Earth turns. When your home faces away from the sun, it is nighttime. The nighttime sky. At the end of the day, you look out the window before you get into bed. The sky is dark. It is nighttime. Tonight you see part of the moon. Without the bright light from the sun, you are able to see light from many stars. The stars look like tiny points of light, but each one is very big. The moon. The moon is a large ball made of rock. As Earth spins, the moon turns around Earth. It takes about 1 month for the moon to go around Earth one time. The sun's light shines on the moon. As the moon moves during a month, the amount of sunlight shining on the moon at night changes. This changes how we see the moon. We see moonlight because the sun's light shines on the moon. Phases of the moon. We see a full moon about once a month. Make connections. What can you see in the daytime and nighttime sky? What do people like to look for or watch in the sky?
All right, that takes us to the end of our second story. We're going to jump into our reading and writing workshop book and take a look at our short stories here. We're also going to be in Unit 3, Week 2. And again, our big idea question or our big idea for Unit 3 is what you've learned about the world that surprised you. So Unit 3, Week 2, we're going to read Starry Night.
Genre: fiction. Starry Night. Essential question: what can we see in the sky? Read about what happens when two girls look for the Big Dipper. Josie and Ling were good friends. Ling was happy Josie was her neighbor. Josie was happy Ling lived nearby too. Josie and Ling couldn't wait for the school day to end. They planned a sleepover at Josie's house. They were going to sleep in a tent in Josie's backyard. As the class was leaving, Mr. Cortez said, "Your weekend homework is to look at the nighttime sky and explain what you saw on Monday." The class grumbled. "Why the unhappy sounds?" Mr. Cortez asked. "It will be fun looking at the sky at night." The girls arrived at Josie's house and were delighted to be sleeping outdoors. Josie said, "I'm so happy that we get to sleep in the tent. It will be lots of fun." Then Ling said, "I'll get the sleeping bags and flashlights. I brought flashlights so we can play games in the tent." Josie's dad poked his head inside the tent. "Girls, it is a good time to do your homework now because it is getting dark," he said. "Aw," they both complained. "Dad," said Josie, "do we have to now?" "Yes, I already set up the telescope." Ling said, "I hope this won't take too long." Josie looked up and spotted a crescent moon. "Did you know the moon's light comes from the sun?" said Josie. "It's funny that it's called moonlight." "Yes," said Ling, who was still thinking about playing in the tent. Josie's dad smiled at the girls and said, "See the stars in the sky? Those points of bright light can form shapes." "You can see the Big Dipper," he said. "It's a group of stars that look like a giant spoon in the sky. The Big Dipper." Josie's dad showed her how to look through the telescope. "Wow, that's more stars than I ever dreamed of. I never imagined there could be so many." It was Ling's turn to look. Ling cried out, "I see a bright light moving in the sky." "That's a shooting star," said Josie's dad. "This is fun," said Ling. "I really enjoy looking at the stars." "I think we've seen enough of the nighttime sky," said Josie's dad. "You girls can go play now." "Aw, Dad, can't we keep looking?" asked Josie. "This is really fun." "Yes," said Ling. "We have had an adventure already, and we haven't even played in the tent yet." "You're right, Ling," said Josie. "This has been one exciting night." Make connections. What did you learn about the nighttime sky after reading this story? Compare what the girls saw in the nighttime sky to what you have seen in the nighttime sky.
All right, let's get into our comprehension strategy and skills for this week. So our comprehension strategy, this is one that we've talked about before, is to reread. Now, when we reread something, remember, it's giving us a chance to go back and look at something again, to read the author's words one more time to help us understand anything that may have been confusing, to pick up on any information that we might have missed by accident if we read too quickly. So rereading is a great strategy to help you understand the text.
Reread. As you read, you can stop and reread the parts you do not understand or may have missed. This will help you understand what you read. Find text evidence. On page 201 of Starry Night, I am not sure what the Big Dipper is. I will reread this part of the story to see if I missed anything. Long. Josie looked up and spotted a crescent moon. Did you know the moon's light comes from the sun? Said Josie. It's funny that it's called moonlight. Yes, said Ling, who was still thinking about playing in the tent. Josie's dad smiled at the girls and said, See the stars in the sky? Those points of bright light can form shapes. You can see the Big Dipper, he said. It's a group of stars that look like a giant spoon in the sky. I read that the Big Dipper is a group of stars that look like a giant spoon in the sky.
All right, next let's take a look at our comprehension skill, and we're going to be working on sequence. So sequence is just a fancy way of saying putting things in order of time. So what happened first, second, third, last, or first, next, then last. Anytime we're talking about sequence, we're talking about the order that something happened.
Sequence. The sequence tells the order of events in the story. We can use the words first, next, then, and last to tell the order of what happens. Find text evidence. As I read page 199 of Starry Night, I think about the sequence in the story. Graphic organizer. First, Josie and Ling plan a sleepover at Josie's house. Their teacher gives them homework over the weekend.
All right, next let's discuss our genre for this week. Our main stories are fiction stories. Now remember, fiction, an easy way to remember it is fiction means fake. They both start with the letter F. So fictional stories are made up stories.
Fiction. The story Starry Night is fiction. Fiction has made up characters and events, has dialogue. Find text evidence. I can use what I read to tell that Starry Night is fiction. The characters are made up and they talk to each other. Story structure. Dialogue is when characters in a story talk to each other.
All right, in the last part, we're going to talk about our vocab strategy for this week that we talked about earlier in our notes, are compound words.
Compound words. A compound word is made of two smaller words. Think of the meanings of the smaller words to figure out the meaning of the compound word. Find text evidence. I see the word sleepover. The first part of this word is sleep, which means to close your eyes and rest. The second part of this word is over, which can mean at another place. I think sleepover means sleeping at someone's house. They planned a sleepover at Josie's house.
All right, that takes us through to the very end of our notes for this week. If you have any questions, please sign into our Zoom sessions or send me an email to let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, second